I'm going to show you how to stretch your hip flexors the right way, and I'm going to show you how to do it the wrong way so you don't make the mistake of doing it the wrong way. So be sure to watch through to the end of this video so you understand how to stretch your hip flexors safely and effectively. Now let's get into it. Let's talk about the anatomy really quick. Your psoas and iliacus attach really deep in your groin onto the thigh bone. They come forward, up, and near your family jewels. They go down under your guts, deep under your guts, and then insert along the inside of your pelvic bowl and along the front of your lower back. So when those hip flexors fire, they bring the leg up like this, or they bring the lower back and pelvis into this anterior tilt position. The first simplest way to stretch your hip flexors is to be standing. Step back with one leg. That's the side you're going to be stretching. Hold on to a wall or chair to give you balance. Then you're going to be moving yourself lower and spreading your legs apart to get more of a stretch into the hip flexors. You want to squeeze your butt cheek, fire your abs, and make sure that your low back stays as flat as possible, and you're tucking your tail so that your tailbone is trying to go down towards the floor. What you don't want to do is allow a big arch in your low back. Keep the abs on, glutes squeezed, and then as you feel you can go farther, just keep pushing the legs further and further apart. Hold this position for 60 seconds if at all possible, or more. If you feel like 60 seconds is outrageous, you can do less. Also, reduce the range, reduce how hard you're pressing and how intense the stretch is, so you can hang out there for 60 seconds and give your body time to get used to the position. To build your strength and stability in this position, you can use your hip flexors to pull your foot through the floor as if you were trying to kick like this. Just keep firing those muscles so that you feel the hip flexors working. Use a medium level contraction so that you can hold it for at least 5 seconds and up to 30 seconds. Then you relax it and then see if you can get a little bit lower and deeper into the stretch. Then fire up, hold, and then relax, and then see if you can get a little deeper into the stretch. This way you're going to be building strength at length in those muscles. You can do this stretch throughout the day, pretty much anywhere, so it's super convenient to do. Another great option is to be kneeling on a cushion or padded floor. You're going to use the same cues of abs on, glutes on to make sure that you get the stretch into the hip flexors. Try to shift your pelvis forward so that your hip joint is in front of where the knee is. When you first start, you may find that you're kind of stuck and you can't really bring the hips forward. That's okay. Just keep working on getting the hips to be able to shift forward. You can think about using that front leg to dig into the floor to help pull you forward to keep getting you a little deeper into the stretch. As a static stretch, hold this for about 60 seconds or more. If it feels like it's impossible, it's way too intense to do that, then you're probably pushing too hard, too fast. Just reduce the range. Make sure it's at an intensity that you can handle for about 60 seconds. Hip flexors can feel really tight when they're weak because atrophy aches. So if you want to build more strength in this position, you can work on doing split squats starting from this position with your butt engaged and your hip flexors stretched. Once you're in this position, you're going to fire up the quads. Use those quads to lift your back knee up, still keeping the abs on, and then slowly bring yourself back down. Do this for 5 slow controlled repetitions. You're going to feel your hip flexors getting a ton of work, and you're going to feel your quads getting a ton of work too. Keep those abs firing so that you get the stretch where it belongs, and you keep building strength at length. And for added challenge, on your last rep, just hold that top position, feeling those muscles burn and burn and burn, and then slowly bring yourself back down. I want to take one quick second to say thank you to Daria and CS Tan, both for their $10 donations in Canadian and Singaporean dollars. Thank you so much for your support. And if you want to support this channel too, then just use that thanks button or the PayPal link that you'll find in the description box. Let's get back to your tight hip flexors. When you're starting to stretch your hip flexors, I recommend starting with once every other day. You can do 2 sets for each side and even do a 3rd set for your stiffer side. Choose from any of the ones that I just showed, and definitely start with the static stretching first before you go into the more advanced contraction and strength work. Start with those static holds. Make sure you understand which muscles need to be lengthening so that when you go to the more advanced stuff, you'll know what muscles should be firing. If you're sitting in a chair all day long, it may be a good idea to do hip flexor stretching every single day and possibly even multiple times a day. That's going to be up to you, and you're going to want to build up to that. If you go at that intensity, at that frequency too fast, you're just going to cripple yourself with soreness. So start off with once every other day and then gradually build it up as you feel safe and comfortable. And now let's talk about how to stretch your hip flexors wrong. The two biggest mistakes that everybody makes when they do the hip flexor stretch is to allow too much extension into the upper back or the lower back. So this is when your ribs are pointing up towards the ceiling because you think you're really stretching as hard as you can, but actually you're just getting extension in the low thoracics and high lumbar spine. So keep the rib cage down. If anything, you can even think about giving yourself a slight hunchback so that you're not wobbling with this rib cage here. The other thing with the lower back is to make sure the abs are engaged and the butt cheeks are firing. That's going to help you keep this flat so you're not getting a big curve down here in your low back. Finally, the third big mistake that people make when stretching hip flexors is not using assistance like a chair or a wall to help them balance. So if you find that when you're doing the hip flexor stretches that you are wobbling side to side and you don't really feel the stretch, then hold on to something. It's not anything to be embarrassed about. This is something that will help you get a better stretch. So go ahead and hold on to something, get set, feel balanced so that you can focus on feeling the right muscles getting the challenge. Finally, remember to pay attention to how your body feels as you're doing this. When you first start, this might feel horribly intense, and that's maybe not okay, but it's to be expected, and you're going to want to attenuate it so that it's not so intense that you feel like you want to die. It should feel like a stretch, and it should feel tolerable, but you don't want to make it so bad that you never want to do it again. When you're trying to release your tight hip flexors, remember that strength does matter. So make sure when you feel ready, you start using those strength building variations that I showed you in this video so that your hip flexors can release and feel strong and stable. If you're trying to improve your hip mobility, be sure to check out the Healthy Hips program, which I'll link to down below. And if you found this video helpful and you want to support future videos like this one, please hit that thanks button or use the PayPal link down below to leave me a monetary tip. I really appreciate it. And I promise I will not use your money to buy an electronic massager built for the Psoas. Because if you know what you're doing, you really don't need it. And if you don't want to give me any money, that's totally fine. Just click the like button, share this video with someone you know with tight hip flexors so that they can loosen their hip flexors too. Subscribe to this channel with notifications on, and let me know in the comment section how you felt with these two stretches. And as always, I hope you remember that pain sucks. Life shouldn't.